But the teachers are alive. They're not books. They are the very living essences of nature itself.
What a strange person.
Unbelievably powerful supercomputer that's running our reality, and we don't have a clue as to how to operate it.
So when maybe you or somebody else creates an AGI system and you get to ask her one question, what would that question be?
What's outside the simulation?
Say in your mind, say to yourself, I am more than my physical body, because I am more than physical matter. I can perceive that which is greater than the physical world.
Do not know all the answers to the questions about reality. Do not claim to know the ultimate truth about life. I see that which has been made hidden. It's a part of a family that explores the consciousness. I'm the void.
This is your last chance. After this, there is no turning back. You take the blue pill. The story ends. You wake up in your bed and believe whatever you want. You take the red pill. You stay in Wonderland. And I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes. Welcome to Lighting the Void.
Broadcasting from a shack on a hill in the Mossy Creek bottoms of Cane Creek, Arkansas. This is Lighting the Void. Welcome back. We're live on the Fringe FM. I hope you guys had a good weekend. It's Monday night, July the 6th. I believe that's right, yeah. Lost the date over the weekend. But tonight, author, magician, and one of my favorite books I've ever read on magic and the magic of the planets is here with us. Rufus Opus, author of The Seven Spheres, is here with us. So if you're into magic and you want to learn about, especially like planetary magic, hermetics, tonight's your night. We got to give a quick shout out to the sponsors at GetTheTea.com, also at AncientLifeOral.com, and Metaphorical Archaeology. If you've had a paranormal experience, this caused you any type of trauma or post-traumatic stress, you can give Barbara a call and you can get a free session with her. Pro bono. I've already had a few myself. 214-995-3754. That's the number to call for her. If you want to call in tonight at any point in time, at least probably the second part, that number is 1-800-588-0335. And you can also join the chat room. Our Discord server is thefringe.fm/chat room. Oh, so here's the thing. Like, I got to do this real quick. You guys, like, hold off on the phones if you can, please, so we can start the interview. And then I got to say that the new Patreons, thank you guys so much for joining. Like, I do have a ton of content I'm about to upload. I'm just working on stuff with the station and stuff with this at the same time, but there is no lack of it. So you're going to get access to Outside the Shack podcast, all the astrological stuff, all the tarot stuff, all the astral travel journal, everything, and whatever new behind the scenes stuff we got too. Just go to lightingthevoid.com, click on the Patreon button, and there you go. All right, let's bring on our guest here, Rufus Opus. Now, the website is headforred.blogspot.com, and Rufus Opus is the author of The Seven Spheres, the book on hermetic planetary magic, and is also a member of the Ordo Templi Orientis. And that's pretty much what I got. Rufus, man, thanks for coming on. Appreciate you.
Hey, yeah, thanks for having me. I appreciate the opportunity to talk to people about this stuff.
Yeah, well, I got to tell you, a lot of people ask me, like, oh, what books do you read on magic and all this other stuff, right? Well, Nish recommended this book to me from Nox Mente, The Seven Spheres, and I got this book, and as soon as I started reading through the front of it, I was hooked because it made a lot of sense, especially hermetically, in the spheres and the graph and everything. It was like, yeah, okay. and it helped me to jump straight into accessing the planets and the spheres as a way of helping my life. Now, I haven't got it down pat just yet. Things have been kind of chaotic, but I can tell you for a fact that it's working. So I'm kind of nailing it down. Is that how it worked for you? Was it a little bit chaotic at first?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. When you first start going through it. So the system that I presented there, it's sort of initiatory. I mean, I guess it is initiatory. And like a lot of occultists, I was raised up in the Golden Dawn system. And I studied a lot of Crowley, and I understood about the whole secret orders, and you get initiated, and you get these revelations based on your initiations. And I was looking at the way the Golden Dawn did it, and they based it on the planets. You know, each of the phases corresponded to a planetary sphere, right? Like on the Tree of Life, right? So I'm getting into this stuff, and yeah, the whole Magick scene didn't make a lot of sense to me at the time. It seemed like a lot of it was sort of made up and hodgepodge together. And this was like around 2006, and there was a lot of, let's see, I want to say flame wars going on between different Golden Dawn groups.
Oh, yeah.
And I'd gotten back into the occult after taking a break for years and years. And I couldn't believe that any of those people in these Golden Dawn derived systems actually understood anything about magic, because it's supposed to transform you and make you into a powerful, intelligent, wise human being who's better able to deal with things. And here's all these, infants.
Lawsuits and bullcrap on the internet and everything. Yeah, I know.
Yeah, exactly. And cursing ex-members and ripping people off for houses and, committing major fraud and running to Canada.
Yeah,
and there's this guy in Pa Rump. And I don't talk about him.
Yeah. Yeah, I know the guy. I know all these people, actually. I just don't get involved with their politics, to be honest with you. I can't.
Yeah. Yeah, I hear you. Yeah, actually, I got a story about that whole OTO thing too later. But yeah, so initiations into the spheres, right? I thought that, I'll go back and find something that happened before Eliphas, Levi, whatever, however you say his name, came along, and just look for the original magic, that it was based on, and test it. And I found this planetary system from Trithemius over at esotericarchives.com, Joe Peterson's site. And it was a simple and easy way to just conjure these angels. And I started into it. And like you said, as you get initiated into each of these spheres, you go through this hectic transformation time where like anything that's out of balance with each of the spheres that you're dealing with has to get into balance in your life. So the ready example I have is like Mars. Mars rules anger and violence and fighting and war and all that stuff. So if you have like anger issues and you go into your Mars initiation without, any kind of preparation, you just go right to Samael or Camael or whichever version you want to use of the Archangel. And you're like, initiate me into Mars. He's like, okay, all this martial energy is released into your life. And it's like opening up a floodgate. Anything that's in the floodgate on the side that doesn't have the water is going to get washed out, and all the crap's going to come out. And then the water will start flowing clean eventually, But that force that comes out, it purifies you. And it purifies you by putting you through all kinds of hell related to whatever your issues are. It creates a situation where you have to deal with that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah, it doesn't sound like... When I got into magic, I was like, I actually started with Liam Thomas Christopher's book and, going through that book. And I was like, I'm going to do all this stuff. And then I started realizing, whoa, as I really studied the elements and everything, I was like, whoa, okay, wait a minute. This is going to make my life suck in a way, but, but not really. Like it does make your life suck in a way, but the rewards are so much greater on the other side.
Yeah, you're suffering anyway. Like your life already sucks in every situation that's going to get cleaned out. It's just you're used to it, And what this does is it reminds you how, like, your anger issues keep ruining your life, for example. until you deal with it. And it also gives you the power to overcome the things in your life that have been holding you back. There's an inertia that we develop where we don't want to move, until we start moving.
You're right. Until it happens. Yeah.
Yeah. And it takes that heat from those spirits, those initiations, those rituals to get those things moving. And once they start moving, they're moving according to your direction and your will, or whatever you want to call it, your intent. And it drives you forward, and it builds up its own momentum. So it helps,
Now, in your book, you talked about like you started out doing like money magic and stuff, which I think a lot of people do that, right? They start out trying to manifest a bunch of money, and they say, okay, well, and they get that to work. But you also talk about like how you realized that money kind of wasn't just everything, but that you could be actually, and this is the coolest part, where you have to realize that you are living in your own kind of story, and that you need to be the king or queen, like you say in your book, whatever you want to call it, of your own existence, right? And in order to do that, you have to like work with these energies instead of letting them affect you all the time, right?
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah. You have to own your life, and really, the philosophy sort of stuff that I put into the book, I mean, I look back on it now and I'm like, what was the real thing I was trying to do there? And I was trying to get people out of their terrible lives that they were stuck in, because when I started doing this, I was in a terrible relationship, a bunch of crappy jobs and one thing after another, and I just was miserable, but I'm sitting here writing this book and doing this magic. And as I did it, I grew further and further away from my now ex-wife, because she was pretty toxic at the time.
Yeah. A karmic though for you, right? A soul lesson, right?
Yes, exactly. Yeah, it totally was. It was like, hey, wake up, you got to stop doing this, this, and this. And I was like, okay, fine, but I didn't want to, that's one of those things. Yeah, I didn't want to lose my relationship. I had 2 kids, and a stepdaughter, and I didn't want to ruin the family, and I felt obligated and all this stuff, but the forces that I was working with, as they cleaned out my spheres, everything just sort of aligned itself around me and put me in a position where I had to face what I really was responsible for. And when it came to like my kids, for example, I'm sitting there thinking, I have to stay with this evil woman that we're fighting every day at the top of our lungs, and what kind of father is that? Yeah, right. How am I able to parent these kids when I'm, so anyway, that's just an example.
It's a perfect example. People think magic is all like Hogwarts, and it's not. It's real life stuff.
Yeah. And see, that's something else, is this real life stuff is the Hogwarts stuff, like you talk about, like Bune, the money magic demon in the Goetia, one of my favorite spirits. Oh, and I have a new book coming out in August, I think it is. It's the Goetic version of this angelic thing that I wrote before.
Nice.
But it's a little bit more demonic in nature and focus. So, but anyway, that Bune spirit is really good at manifesting opportunities for wealth, and usually it's just kind of get by to cover the gaps kind of stuff. I mean, he could do some pretty amazing things. But when I first started working with him, I wanted to win the lottery and didn't win the lottery and got all pissed off. And then, over time, I eventually learned that what he would do is give you opportunities to make, $800 or $900 in a month that you wouldn't have had otherwise. And once I had learned how to target it better, it definitely made a difference. But he also taught me responsibility of money, like right. I don't know how to explain it. And I didn't really.
Well, people go into this and they want, like I talked to Alon Malu Duquette about this too. Sometimes they want like life-changing money events to happen. Not saying that won't happen, but usually it's something that forces you to just better yourself in a way, right?
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah, his books were very, very useful. My Life with the Spirits sort of fixed my understanding of what this was all about. I highly recommend his work. He's a really great author. I think my biggest complaint is that he writes all my books before I get a chance to. Usually by like 20 years. I'm like, man.
Yeah.
When I grow up, I want to be like him.
Yeah. Now there is some debate on that too, because I've had both Gordon White and Lon Milo DeKid on the broadcast, and one, says that these demons and things are just parts of ourselves that we don't really know that are like controlling things that we need to get control of. And then, Gordon totally refutes that. At least the last time he did on the show, he's like, no, these are actual spirits. They're not just, they can be dangerous. Right. And I'm thinking, well, isn't it somewhere in between? Right. To me, it is.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, everything's dangerous. The angels aren't good and nice, and the demons aren't evil and bad. They're just forces, and how you use them and how you let them manifest in your sphere, in your kingdom. I mean, that's mostly up to you. I used to think that we could control all this stuff, but it's not a position of control. It's a position of influence.
Gotcha. Okay.
And you don't ever get to be the king of everybody else's kingdom. And that was something that I think Thelema was really good for me to study all that stuff, because I learned to respect other people's autonomy, their right to do what they will. Like my right to do what I will is the whole of the law, right? But that's up to the edge of my kingdom, the edge of my sphere. And then where other people's spheres are, that's their kingdom. And where they overlap, we have to negotiate.
Yeah, I get
it has
that.
to be.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, you also vibrate on the same. You vibrate the same with certain people too. That's the cool part about it. Your spheres do line up, and you find the right people.
And they come pouring in. My fiance and I met at a really good time, and it's been wonderful. We had a good 8 years here that have been the best years of my life in terms of a relationship. And it was like we were introduced by Frater Ashen Hashan.
Oh, I love him. Yeah, he's been on the show before. He's a good guy.
Yeah, he really is. Yeah, I don't know if his real name is public knowledge, so I'm not going to use it. But yeah, he introduced us, and one thing led to another. So, but that thing about vibing people into your life, it's pretty amazing. It really does work that way.
Well, here's the thing. Like, I kind of already did that before I picked up your book, but when I picked up your book, I was like, oh, I really was doing this, like, but not to this extent. And I got to tell you, I don't want to give too much away of this book, because I really want you guys, if you're listening, to get it, The Seven Spheres. But the way that you go about doing these rituals is awesome. Like, I could even, you're allowed to pick some of this stuff. Like, you give your recommendations, but then you're also kind of allowed to pick through a few things, and just having that power versus like the stuff I was used to, the Golden Dawn, where everything's precise and you got to do this and that, or I could like put on some Venus stuff and like turn on some Sade and be like, hey, now we're talking. You know what I'm talking about? Like, this feels right. It makes the ritual feel right,
Yeah, it does. It really does. The yeah, I don't know. Do we want to talk about Gents for Jupiter yet, or is that something else?
Yeah, you can, for sure. You can talk about whatever on here.
All right, cool. So the Gents for Jupiter was this cult to Jupiter that basically resulted in the creation of what became the Seven Spheres, because we were looking for rituals to honor Zeus or Jehovah or Thor or whatever Jupiterian god you preferred. And I found this Trithemian rite thing, which was great for the archangels. And then I got into the Orphic hymns. I don't remember who introduced me to those. Might have been Jake Stratton Kent, but I don't know. So I was reading something about it, and I got into it. And if you use the Orphic hymn as a statement of intent, it becomes its own ritual, Yeah. And I'm mixing together stuff from the 15th century and stuff from the 3rd century, and why not a little Sade too, But we ended up doing rituals to the sounds of the planet as it was recorded by like Voyager or something when it flew by.
Yeah.
And what you can hear from it, and the actual planet of Jupiter just makes this weird pulsing sound, you know, and it does sound like the God. So yeah, you can mix all this stuff in. There's no reason not to.
I use those too, though. Because I did this through so many 2 or 3 different moon cycles. So I used the planetary sounds. I used my own stuff. Even I remember one time, one of the coolest Mercury rituals I ever did, I used a Tool song with it, and it was really cool.
Which one? Do you remember the song?
It was a Third Eye. I don't remember the name of it, man, to be honest with you, because I was just sifting through them, and I was like, that one looks good, you know. And if I could see it, I'll probably know it and tell it to you during the break. But it was cool, and it worked. And so
most of that book was written to Tool, by the way.
Really?
Yeah.
That's why I was vibing. I was really vibing Tool when I was I could feel it almost. I know it might sound crazy to some people that's listening, but there's
it's the vibe, you know, and
for sure.
The rhythm of the music is the rhythm of my typing. When, you know, I'm writing a book on the HGA now, and I'm super into like the Avett Brothers and some modern country stuff. And I think this is some of the I don't know, some of the kindest writing I've done in a long time. So, and it's just wholesome, and I don't know, it sounds like it was written by some really nice Christian from somewhere in the South. I don't know. So, but it's good stuff.
We got some good stuff down here, man. You know?
Yeah. I spent time in Oklahoma and Texas. So,
what is your thoughts on like initiation, though? Seriously, like say someone picks up the stuff the first time, and they look and like, okay, I could start with Chick Cicero's stuff. I could start with Griffin's stuff. I could start with Liam's stuff. I could start with Crowley's stuff. But man, like, I just want to get into the magic. Do I really got to go through all this other elemental stuff? And, you know, can I just start doing this stuff? What's your opinion on that?
Okay. My opinion is that you don't have to. So I wrote this book so anybody could pick it up and start doing magic, right? Without any initiations. So,
it's a tough question,
it's not
right?
necessary. Well, it's not. It's an easy answer, but there's so many layers to it. The easy answer is no. You don't have to be initiated. You can pick up my book. You can pick up Patrick Dunn is a really cool author and translator and scholar, and he wrote a book on postmodern magic years ago and power and symbol. Anyway, but you can pick up all this stuff and start using these tools without going through all the initiations, and they are just as effective as they are when you have been through the initiations. And I couldn't have said that when I wrote the book, because I wasn't initiated into the OTO. I hadn't, like, I've been ordained as a priest in the Gnostic Catholic Church.
Oh, cool.
I'm sorry?
I was just saying, cool. That's cool.
Oh, yeah, and it definitely changed. Have you talked to Jason Miller yet?
Yeah, I've had him on
okay.
a couple times, actually, yeah.
Yeah, he initiated me as a priest first. I don't know if that's secret or not. I hope if it is, you know.
Whoa, no, I didn't know that.
Anyone.
But Jason, if you're listening, no, this is a joke.
Yeah. So
Jason's a cool cat, though, man. So there, you got initiated by somebody who knows what they're talking about, you know.
Yeah, and he was like, "You got to conjure a demon now." I'm like, "Why do I have to conjure a demon?" He's like, "You'll see." And he's like, "Also, Eucharist." I'm like, "What do you mean Eucharist?" Right? So I get initiated as a priest, and the demons that I had been working with for years took on a completely different aspect. You know, like there's a different aspect of their nature that I didn't have before. So there is a change that happens when you go through an initiatory process and you're exposed to certain energies that have been passed on and transmitted by other people for years and years and years. You can tap into that current, and it does change your own vibration, right? You can't just add a tone to a song without changing the whole experience of the music, right? So my whole experience changed, and I can't go backwards. I can't give up my initiations, but my effects of my magic haven't changed.
Really?
You know, I'm just as effective as I was before. The initiations gave me a different understanding and a perspective on this stuff, but I do believe that magic is primarily designed to create your world. You know, fundamentally, it is the creation of the world that we are studying through magic. That's what hermetics is all about. And if your magical system involves socializing, drinking a lot, and reading what other people wrote, and not actually doing a lot of magic, it really doesn't matter how initiated you are and what your perspective is on the spirits if you're never working with them. You know. Oh, and going back to the spirits, I did want to touch on that when you said that Lon and Gordon have different views on things. So Lon wrote most of his stuff in like the 70s, 80s, 90s, right? And based on stuff that he learned on the couch with Robert Anton Wilson in California from Phyllis Seckler, you know, the AA person, and you know, and he's an amazing person. Everybody that taught him had been influenced by Rigardi, right, who was a psychiatrist, and said you shouldn't do music unless you're going through psychotherapy at the same time. And by the way, my rates are, you know, $125 an hour. Thank you. So,
wait, are you a therapist?
No, that was Rigardi. I was pretending to be him.
Oh, I got you. Yeah. You know? Well, yeah, he was kind of, man, he was snooty though, a little bit. Let's be honest.
Oh yeah, yeah. I didn't like him. I mean, wait, let me rephrase that. I
learned a lot from him, but his attitude kind of like I think it was a Tree of Life book when I read it, and I was having fun. I just got out of body and learned how to like fly around and stuff. And then almost like the next week, I think I remember reading, he's like, "This is not a place to play around." And I'm like, "Why not? I'm having fun." You know, like, why are you taking the fun out of everything, right? But I do learn a lot from him though.
Yeah, you know how Gordon said that they can be dangerous. Yeah. So I disagree with Gordon on that. I respect him well enough, you know, but I do disagree with him. I don't think there's anything you can do with magic that you can't put down with magic. Like, you know, I've gotten myself into trouble with demons, and I had to ask them to leave. And they left, you know, and they left behind something that was not fun. I ended up having a heart attack when I was 36. And they had no reason for me to have a heart attack, and I obviously did according to my blood work, but they couldn't find anything wrong with me and no damage to my heart. I just had a heart attack. And
damn, really?
No reason, right? Well, I was trying to kill someone with a demon. So I conjured folklore to kill someone because I was so pissed. And then this demon shows up, and you know, when you actually are holding the gun and pointing it at someone, and it's loaded and it's cocked, and all you have to do is squeeze the trigger, all of a sudden you rethink whether or not you really want to kill someone. So I conjured this death demon, right? And I'm like, go forth and kill. And there's this huge black thing in the middle of the room, and I'm like, oh shit, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Thank you for coming.
So you saw the sumbitch. That's. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he was like, it just showed up, and it's like, am I supposed to kill you, or who am I killing? Right?
You rang. I'm like, oh, crap.
Yeah.
This is real.
Yeah. But you don't think it's dangerous still, even after that?
I sent him away, and I mean, you have to be careful. Like, if I would have said, go away and thank you for coming, go away and don't hurt anyone and don't harm me, you know, I forgot to say that. And that's just...
It does happen a lot, doesn't it?
Yeah. You got to watch what you say and how you say it. But if you create a situation like that heart attack kind of thing, you know, oh no, I'm in the hospital. And I'm like, oh, I just did that demon right. You know, folklore, please take this away. Thank you for taking that away. And, you know, I recovered, and there's no remains of that, you know. So just asking the spirits to undo it is enough usually. I had some students do the 7 spheres. Like I like to do the 7 spheres in 7 days every once in a while.
Nice.
Because it destroys your it's like turning on the hose and hosing out your Jeep, you know.
So you could tell somebody, be like, listen, we're gonna do a week of planets, and I need you to clear your schedule. Like, I hope you don't got anything important to do, right? Is that what you tell them?
No, I don't tell
Probably should if it's that bad, though. I'm just saying. I probably would.
There's a Facebook group that I have for this, and every once in a while invite people to it, and we'll go through it. And usually it takes about 2 months, and you're starting over from scratch with everything renewed and rejuvenated. You know, if you've done it before, you get more authority, more responsibility. You expand the borders of your kingdom a little bit, you know, and things don't usually fall apart as badly. But when you release all that power into your life, the power of creation into your life that cleanses out all the crap and creates in you the ability to influence your world into being according to your will, you know, I mean, that means you got to get rid of everything related to your foundation of your life, every blessing and joy that you have, every and I'm exaggerating on purpose here, but
because I'm not going to do that. Sorry.
Yes, you will.
Yeah, well, you won't have a choice, but yeah, I got you.
No, you have a choice, but you're going to choose to, because eventually this stuff gets to be like crack, you know?
Yeah.
Especially when you do it like one day after another. Like, I recommend people do this like over 6 weeks and then wait 2 months. But if you do it over a week, it just releases everything, you know?
Gotcha.
And it empowers you. And like a friend of mine opened a restaurant, and he was not far from being homeless when he started the rituals. And by the time he was done, he was running a restaurant in London, you know?
Wow.
And it's like, yeah. And it has since, you know, he's moved on to other things. But yeah, that kind of thing happens to a lot of people. People's relationships fall apart that weren't working. You know, people's jobs, they get advanced or they get fired, you know, because it's not the right job.
Right. Look, I mean, if it's not where you're supposed to be, if it's not your, damn it, we got to take a break. But if it's not your path, it's not the job you're supposed to be working, it does feel like chaos. But I'm telling you, like, even before I read this book, I do know the facts that on the other side, you're like, damn, I'm glad I did that. I promise you. Like, it does, it's hard. I mean, maybe you could speak for that, and then we can go to break, because that's how it's been for me. Yeah, no,
it's exactly like that for me too. Yeah, it's not the great easy, it's the great work, right?
Yeah. Yeah, right on. All right, we'll be right back with Rufus Opus, and we'll get to your questions. We'll open up the phone lines in the second part of the show. We're already like bruising right along here. We'll be right back.
Hey, this is country music singer and void walker Jason Benoit, and when I need my fix on the world of magic and the capabilities of the human consciousness, I listen to Joe Roop right here on Lighting the Void Radio.
This is Barbara Charlton from Metaphorical Archaeology. If you've ever had a traumatic paranormal experience, the effects of it may stay with you for years. Who do you talk to? You can't go to conventional help. What we do is we use emotional freedom techniques or tapping to actually neutralize the effects of that event. Maybe when you tell the story now, your heart races and your palms get sweaty. You don't even want to think about it because you don't know how to neutralize that. That's what EFT tapping does. It neutralizes those emotions. The circuit that was recorded on is gone. The energy flows freely and you're free of it. And that's what emotional freedom is all about. We offer this as a pro bono service, but this is something that I offer because no one, it seems, is helping people with these experiences. If you'd like to reach me, it's really easy. My cell phone is 214-995-3754. Please leave a message. I will get back to you as quickly as possible. Or you can email me, barb.eft@gmail.com. And EFT stands for Emotional Freedom Techniques. Reach out to me. It's confidential. This works. You won't believe the results.
All right, man. This is Crow 777, and you are listening to The Fringe FM. Right, me old Chinas. I know it's an ad break, but before you lot shoot off and make yourself a cup of Rosie Lee or whatever else it is you're going to sling down your Gregory Peck, you need to listen to me babble. If, like me, you found your way to Lighting the Void via a downloadable podcast, you might want to take a butcher's at the Fringe FM Wind and Kite. You won't Adam and Eve how many other shows there are or what they rabbit on about. Ancient history, conspiracy, the consciousness, the esoteric, the occult, metaphysics, parapolitical, ufology, technology and spirituality, to name but a few. They got featured hosts like Ryan Gable, Jeremy Scott, Alex Exum, Tim Doyle, Cortana and Gigi, Susanna Ross, the Reverend John Polk, Michael Deacon and J.D. Lewis. You might find yourself listening to the thoughts and theories of the author of The Fish you just finished reading. Or you could pick up the dog and bone, call in and tell everyone your own beliefs or experiences. So do me a favour, before you put on the Ansel or crack open a bottle of vino or roll a joint, go to the Fringe FM and see what you're missing.
From a cave in the depths of your mind, it's Lighting the Void with Joe Roop.
The Fringe FM isn't just a radio station. We also provide services for all your audio production needs. If you are interested in live radio or pre-recorded podcasts, we're here to help. We even do audio enhancements and voiceovers if needed. If you want to do a podcast or live radio show and even want the option to syndicate on terrestrial radio, from simple audio file enhancement to live production and call screening, we have you covered. We have worked with some of the best professionals in the business in order to provide coaching instruction for content creation, show structure, and more. Contact The Fringe Digital Media for more at info@thefringe.fm. That's info@thefringe.fm. Or call 501-777-5631 for a consultation.
The Liberator Rocket Heater will heat your home for free. The highly efficient Liberator Rocket Heater has no moving parts. It's safe and strong, constructed of 1/4-inch steel. So like all things made in the USA, it's built to last. Uses any kind of wood, sticks, even scrap in its gravity-fed firebox. And it heats workshops, homes, garages, outbuildings, industrial areas, and barns. Watch the video of this blast furnace stove in action. Visit rocketheater.com. That's rocketheater.com.
Hey, I'm J.M. DeBoard, and when I want to talk about dreams, I look up my man Joe Root and his show, Lighting the Void.
All right, welcome back to Lighting the Void. We're live on the Fringe FM here. Remember, the calling number is 501. It's not 501. It's 1-800-588-0335. We'll open the phone lines up here in the next break. Rufus Opus is our guest tonight, author of The Seven Spheres, also magician. And man, after I read your book, I knew you was funny, dude. But you got me laughing so much I'm tearing up here during the break, man. Yeah. So you're just see, this is what I think a lot of people think about, like magicians too, is that they're just these super powerful dudes with runes tattooed all over them, living in ivory towers, running the world. But like some of the best magicians I know are normal, everyday people just going through the same stuff, wanting to be happy, man. You know?
Yeah.
That's it.
And missing out on. See, I believe that the people who become magicians are the people that are called to it, you know. And this goes back to my Christian upbringing. I believe that there's those who are chosen and those who aren't, you know. But ultimately, it doesn't matter what I believe. People who are interested in magic just assume that you're called to it, because nobody's interested in this stuff unless they have something driving them to it. Like, if you try to talk to people who have no magical ability and no magical interest about magic, you're going to find out right away that they would rather talk about, I don't know, some TV show. you know, yeah. It's just they will
see Tiger King last night. I'm like, not really.
Yeah.
No.
I have not seen that yet. Actually,
it's worth. I mean, it's worth watching if you want to laugh. Like if you want to take some spores and just watch the end, you'll laugh. Seriously. But other than that, it's not nothing to take serious. Even though there's some serious life going on there. But all right, so let me just say this for my audience, just the people that ask me questions. If you want to get in, if you want to feel the energy of how magic works, especially when it comes to the planets, if you really want to feel it and you really want to feel what I would say is like when first time you ever really tap into planetary power. I'm not saying there's not a bunch of other books or stuff like that will help you, but this book is the first one for me, and I've been practicing Golden Dawn magic for almost 5 years. So when I did planetary magic, the biggest thing that would happen, I know the forces would work in my life, but the biggest thing that would happen is when I got to the peak of the invocation, maybe the incense would swirl towards my finger or something, right? But this one, actually, I don't really know if I should go into it or not, but actually had things affect my outside world, energies that I felt, emotions that that were just so deep that I'd never felt before. It was intense, man. I got to tell you, it was really intense.
Yeah. Well, I love hearing those stories from people. Like I got my own ones, but they I know them and I live through them, and they're not as exciting as hearing about other people. Have you, we were talking earlier off the air about some stuff. Is that okay to bring up?
Yeah.
About your lunar stuff.
Yeah. So I'm doing this moon ritual, right? And there's a part of the ritual where you go outside and you make it's kind of like a nod or an adoring and thank you to the moon, and you pour whatever wine or whatever alcohol you're using at the time. I was just using regular like wine, and I had a place that I walked out to, and I was really, man, I think it's because I'm a Cancer moon, and I got an astrological point, the chart that just points to the moon, and I remember like just being full of emotion, thinking like wow, like how you really feel grateful for something. Yeah. Like something had come into my life that I felt extremely grateful for, almost like undeserving of, and there was this, and it was almost like a Venus thing for me, but it really wasn't Venus. And the whole day, the whole evening, it was a full moon. There was clouds and you couldn't see the moon, just too many clouds. But exactly when I poured that wine out and said that, thank you, the verse that you have in the book there, like an opening happened in the clouds, and a moonbeam came down into my front yard on top of me, right? And I was just full of emotion and feeling it. And my son was behind me. I didn't know he was behind me. He was standing right behind me watching me do this. It's like the 4th time my son's caught me doing magic. It makes you feel really weird, by the way, when your kids catch you. But at least it does for me. And I put the cork back in the wine, turned around and looked at him, and he was like, holy hell. He's like, did you do that? And I was like, did I do what? And he goes, I saw that. Did you do that? And I was like, I don't think I did it, son. I think it just works that way. But I've been trying to, like show him that some of this stuff is real, but I don't want to influence him either. So it's kind of weird,
How old is your kid?
He's 16. Just turned 16.
Yeah, that's the perfect age. Yeah. All right. So my kid, when he was like 7, he would come into my office and ask me about the tarot cards and ask me how to read them and all this stuff. He actually ended up teaching a class when he was like 17 on tarot to a bunch of adults. It's pretty cool. I felt pretty proud. But yeah, I mean, the kids, they're not as, even at 16, they're not as like jaded about this stuff as we are, by the time, if you wait until you're like in your 30s or
no, he was pretty cool with it. 30s. I know what you're saying.
Yeah, it's pretty neat. I like it a lot.
But when he was little, he caught me in full garb, dude. When he was little,
with all the Golden Dawn stuff.
Yeah, like when he was 8 years old, he walked in on me, and I had just finished like building my temple, right? I mean, I had a temple. I had the black robe on. I had the banishing dagger. I had all candles lit up like it was a Catholic cathedral. He walks in. He's like 8 or 9 years old. He's like, and he's looking at me, and I'm like, oh hell. And he's like, maybe I'll come back. It was funny to hear my son like be kind of smart alecky about it, but he looked at me like I was crazy, and he was like, maybe I'll come back. This is a bad time. I'm like, yeah, you caught me at a bad time, actually.
Tall.
Yeah, right. I'm sitting there vibrating like vibratory names and stuff too. Yeah, that's exactly how it went.
Can I ask you a personal question about your vibration?
Yeah, sure.
Do you vibrate with a little bit of a Southern accent?
Yeah, I ain't gonna lie to you. I ain't gonna lie to you. Like I was trying to make some guided meditations for my audience and like the patrons, and I would go back and listen to it, and I'm like, oh man, like it sounds like one of the Beverly Hillbillies, like saying all these invocations. It don't sound right. I mean, I can do the vibratory vibrato and try to get it real. I can do the vibration right, but it's the pronunciations that get me.
Well, so I learned the Golden Dawn stuff when I was like 16 in Texas. So I had just moved to Colorado, and my accent was still a little Southern and border. So I still do the LVRP wrong. I did it for my I joined the AA.
What do you mean you did it wrong? What were you saying wrong? Just curious.
Oh no, I said it, but I didn't. I said the words.
That's all that mattered, right? You just saying
right,
the words.
To me. Right. But yeah, he was like, no, you have to say ata.
Mm-hmm. You got to vibrate it, right? Yeah.
Ata. Malku. And he's like, no, again. I'm like,
oh,
okay.
Man. That's cool, though. At least you got some good training.
Yeah, the AA is really, if you're going to join an initiatory system that's based on the Golden Dawn, I recommend the AA.
Yeah.
OneStarSite.org. Cool. plug. But yeah, that's a pretty cool system. And the teachers in that particular organization are really responsive and good for you. But yeah.
Well, I like the AA because it doesn't have, like in the Golden Dawn, you've got these hierarchies and all these people. And the people I met were great. They were from all over the world, man. They were great. But the AA system is just like a teacher-student kind of thing. So it's more personal, I guess. I mean, I really like it.
Yeah, it's incredibly personal because, we could go into that. Maybe that's another topic. I don't know. But yeah, it doesn't really tie back into Seven Spheres so much. I don't think Seven Spheres is juicy magic. Like you were saying, you get those feelings and the spirits are present. People who'd I'd never seen a spirit in my life, and the first time I did this Trithemian thing, it was a lunar rite, and it was Gabriel because I just happened to be in the lunar hour, and I'm like, okay, so Gabriel, did the thing. Gabriel shows up in my crystal, and it's a face, it's a profile, like side view of this angelic face, and it turns and it looks at me, and I'm like. And it's all taken. It's using the occlusions in the crystal, in the quartz crystal ball, and it's all cracked and it's using all the reflected light inside of it to show me and guide my imagination, sort of, in the direction of seeing the spirit, And I'd never had anything that potent. Well, I mean. Okay, so I was raised Christian, and I did have some pretty interesting experiences in the charismatic movement with deity. I'll leave it at that for now. But I'd never actually seen a spirit, and it was really cool. And of course, the lunar spirit is the best place to start, in my opinion, because once you can get into that through the veil kind of thing that the moon represents, because it's the first step outside of the elemental world, the terrestrial world.
Yeah.
Once you get into that astral space, it's you need all those astral senses, and the lunar sphere is sort of where you can get those. Right. Gabriel empowers those senses so you can sense them a little bit.
Dude, I know all about it, man. I think even when I got through this book, and I still, like, this book has got, the edges are frayed. You have no idea how much I've used your book, man, honestly. So,
did you get a hard copy or a soft
well, copy? I got the paper copy. Okay. I probably need to get a hard copy, actually.
Maybe I have one around here I can send you. So,
but the thing is like, you're talking about seeing an angel. Oh, I didn't have a scrying crystal. So I was like, okay, what am I going to use to put in the middle of this circle? So I took my offering, the thing that I usually put my bread on, and I cleaned it out, and it's just pure gold, right? And it's shiny.
Oh,
and I was
nice.
like, I could use that. But anytime I was using anything with lunar, water, whatever, I would pour a little water in it and then stare into it. And that is when I saw like an angelic face. At first I saw my reflection, and then it turned into like, I really don't know how to explain it, honestly. It turned into a face that kind of looked like a Mona Lisa, where it was what do you call it? Where it doesn't really have male or female qualities, kind of like both.
Androgynous.
That's it. Yeah. And it was like beauty in its plainest form almost. And I was like, it made my heart speed up, and I was like, oh, that's the angel. Like I saw. Yeah. I mean, I've never thought I would talk about this on the show, but yeah, exactly, it happened to me too.
Right, so you hallucinate, huh? Is what you're saying?
Yeah, that's all it was. It was just a big trip. It's all in my mind,
Yeah, something about spores, something. Anyway, yeah, that's funny that you describe it that way, because that's what I took away too, and I don't think I've ever put it that way. But Gabriel was very androgynous, and it was very beautiful. It was very pure and clean, and I was like, this is great. Why would anybody make anybody learn the LBRP when you can just conjure the spirit and have this juicy experience, Yeah. And then when I got into the AA stuff, I mean, I had to learn all the Golden Dawn rites, the lesser banishing ritual of the hexagram and the greater invoking ritual of the pentagram and all this stuff, and it's just not
it's dull, isn't it?
I want to say, yeah, it's more form than function, and I'm a Taurus, I'm very earthy, and I want to have a very luxurious and pleasurable life, I want to have steaks and with garlic and onion flavor, and then the meat, it matters.
I can dig that.
I want that visceral feeling, the passionate feeling of creation, and you get that from this. But you go into these very carefully constructed, basically adaptations of real magic that can be studied and compared to previous results, and it's like, all my results are boring.
Yeah.
But
does that mean the energy doesn't really happen though? Because it definitely does. But I get what you're saying. You don't get the aesthetics so much.
Yeah. Well, in the AA, they kind of balance that out with pranayama and some of the Eastern practices that Crowley integrated into the Golden Dawn stuff. So every day you have to sit there and breathe, a certain way that creates a chemical change in your brain, and you see things differently. And then if you do the LBRP, you're going to have a different experience than if you just do the LBRP. And you kind of learn how to manipulate your body chemistry through breath and posture and muscle control. And I think that those are very useful techniques. When you're making gestures to the spirit world, you repetitive motion, you get the muscle memory for it. And I think that was something I was lacking when I started doing all this stuff. And it made my juicy magic even juicier, because I had developed those muscles, but the AA system, I think, is more of a muscular training system, and it's also focused on getting to know who you are and, what you want, why you're here, all that hermetic stuff that
the only thing that I didn't, the only reason, and I'll just say between you and I, the only reason why I didn't, and I had the thing filled out, I was ready to send it in and all that stuff, was, it just was like, do I have to embrace the Lima? Like, I'm not the kind of guy that, even though I understand the will and letting everybody do their own thing as long as they don't harm somebody else, that kind of thing, but it just felt like I was embracing another religion, which sounds pretty stupid because I do a lot of Golden Dawn stuff, right? So it sounds kind of hypocritical, but I wasn't sure about it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, well, Crowley said he was a prophet like Muhammad, right?
Yeah, that's pretty freaky to me.
Yeah, that's a good red flag.
It's like, I'm invoking this new like aeon through Ayahuasca, and we're gonna bring in all this stuff. If you read the book of the law, you're like, whoa, this is some pretty intense stuff here. I'm supposed to burn this when I get done with it. Like, this is, yeah, I know, but it's like, why do I want to embrace this religion. Now, like, why can't I just say, hey, man, I like you, or her, you do what you want, I'll do what I want. Why do I have to, you know, like bring down this religion with it? You see what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, there's you know, for every person, you know, there's like types of people that are going to respond to whatever this invisible world is that we're trying to work with. You know, they've got their own symbol sets that are going to be best for them. And people who need a religion, there's a religious way to tap into the unseen world. And if people need this very dry and articulated system, there's the Golden Dawn and the AA stuff. And for people who are into the juicy stuff like me, there's all the grimoires out there that you can tap into. I've been playing with the PGM stuff lately.
Wow.
If you should definitely try to get a hold of Alison Tchaikovsky sometime. Get her on the show. She's doing some very fascinating stuff into the
you're talking about the Greek magical papyri. Is that what you're talking about? Like,
yeah, the Greek magical papyri. And,
okay.
The Orphic hymns, the Chaldean oracles, all that stuff is sort of tied together, and it's a very interesting thing. And when you try to dig into it, you can see that there's this framework of a source, a story of these entities that work with this source, and they take on lots of faces and names and all this stuff. And it's got its own interesting way of putting it. But it's not a religion. It's just got a lot of gods in it. You know,
Gotcha.
And it does help if you understand that there's an underworld, the world we live in, and maybe something in the celestials, but not necessarily above. You know, there's a lot of indications there is something higher. You know, there's the axis mundi that you travel up and down and go up through the spheres. But yeah, I mean, yes, you can adopt the religion, but Thelema is for Thelemites. It's not intended for anybody else. And the only way you're going to find out if you're a Thelemite or not is if you read it and like it. You know.
Yeah.
If you find something interesting in it that is useful and beneficial to your work, then of course you're going to adopt it.
Yeah,
but,
I've never thrown the baby out with the bathwater when it came to Crowley, but I don't idolize the guy. And people they idolize him, and they living on his every word. I kind of like, I don't know, that conversation starts coming to a halt for me. I don't know why.
Yeah, it's because you grew up in the South, man. You know,
yeah,
what,
like I don't trust the guy. Let's be honest. I don't trust Aleister Crowley. I just don't.
Well,
you know?
He didn't either. You know, he never trusted himself. He's like, anybody who believes my stuff is an idiot. So,
so he takes like this sacred thing, and this is what really gets to me. He takes this sacred thing, which the Golden Dawn overprotected, by the way, and is like, hey, there's this, you know, these sexual forces that manifest pretty much everything. We live in this thing. And I'm thinking, yeah, well, we're still, and I believe as a human race, trying to figure out what love is. So I personally believe that love needs to be involved when it comes to that. But this is just my thing, whatever. Like, I'm not judging people. This is my thing. And it was like, well, I'll just have 40 concubines and we'll create a moonchild. And then you see all the stuff that happens in his life. And I'm like, wait a minute, man. Like, what's the deal here? I mean, you're a genius. I'm reading genius stuff here, but your life is going to hell in a handbasket. You know? Right. But then if you think about a lot of the prophets, even the biblical ones, they were all assholes.
Uh-huh.
Weren't they?
Yeah. Yeah, Elisha called out or was it Elijah? One of them called out the bears to eat the children because they called him bald. They made fun of his baldness.
Yeah.
He's like, bears. Okay.
Yeah, they're all jerks, man. Self-centered jerks.
Insane. That's insane, man.
Yeah. So
yeah, but I mean, have you noticed that happens in our modern day too? You know, like a lot of my friends are really on top of their game, but then, you know, something happens to them. Not my current friends, but I've seen it happen where like all of a sudden they realize something about the nature of what we're doing, and they go through this phase where they're just complete jackasses.
They get megalomania, I think, maybe.
Well, yeah, I have to fight that a lot because I get all these IMs from people who've read my book and they think that I have answers for them, and I know what kind of life I continue to lead, even with all the wisdom and knowledge and insight and initiation.
You're like,
and
I'm just a normal dude. I get it, man.
Yeah.
Trust me.
Yeah. And you know, I mean, I got fired from my job because I couldn't do it right for this lady that I didn't understand. I never even bothered to do magic about it. So, you know, who am I to tell you how to do anything?
Well, you
I
didn't
try
need
not
that
to.
job.
Try not to take it too seriously. But when people ask me for advice, like, you know, some people have, I will give it, but, you know, with lots of grains of salt.
Okay. Well, we'll take that into consideration because I do have some questions for you. And there were people calling in, but I think they hung up. But we were at the top of the hour. You guys can call in and ask any questions. Just remember what he said here. Well, but we're talking about this book, The Seven Spheres, and might talk about his new book coming up here too, and a little bit more, I guess, since we're revealing stuff, a little bit more deeper discussion on magic, hermetics, and the spheres and the planets. We'll be right back.
And sex.
Yeah, and sex too, right?
And you're listening to The Fringe FM.
Are you intrigued by Paranormal Talk Radio? You'll love the new Paranormal Radio app from TalkStream Live. You'll find a great selection of talk shows covering UFOs, ghosts, strange phenomena, and much more. Download the Paranormal Radio app now and start listening to the very best in paranormal talk entertainment, including the network you're listening to right now, the Paranormal Radio app. Free in Google Play and the iOS App Store.
Hey, this is No Way Jose, a Northern California Piscean stuck in the Arizona desert. I'm a void walker, and I got the shoes to prove it. So what do I do when my soul yearns to delve deep into the realm of the unknown? I aim my satellite straight into the night sky and catch a smooth ride on the KTLK-DB radio waves. I tune into Lighting the Void with Joe Root on the Fringe FM.
Joe, Lighting the Void is the best show on the planet. This is Barney, your friend from Facebook. Thank you and all the crew for all you do. Namaste, my friend.
This is Macon from the foothills of North Carolina, and I am a void walker.
G'day, void walkers. This is Lily from down under Australia. The world may be small, the enigma is greater. So let your curiosity take you for a journey with Joe Root.
Hey, this is Fee, coming in from Central Maryland, and I am a void walker.
This is Kevin Doherty, a beginner void walker. I'm from Vancouver, BC. I know a little about a lot, and as Leonard Skinner said, I'll guess the rest. I learned a lot from Mr. Root in the show, and heard it from the beginning. I knew right then he was going to be a new Art Bell. Thanks for all your shows, and keep it up.
Hey, this is Derek from Mass, a.k.a. the Night Stalker, and I'm a void walker.
This is Mark from Chicago, and I walk the void to ascertain what is consciousness.
My name is Jared Johnson, and I'm from Humboldt County, California. I do not know all of the answers to the questions about reality. I do not claim to know the ultimate truth about life. I seek that which has been made hidden as a part of a family of explorers of consciousness. I'm a void walker. Thanks, Joe Root.
Please listen. Now is not the time to fear. When your immune system is strong, shields up. You have very little worries. If your immune system is compromised, you're susceptible to all viruses. I say shields up and no fear. Try Heart Love from GetTheTea.com. Heart Love has a special ingredient called allicin. It comes from the healing part of the garlic plant. No garlic breath, no garlic leaking out your pores, just pure immune-building ingredients that gets your shields up. Heart Love is a unique blend of herbs that loves to build you up. Google garlic and know the benefits. One Heart Love pill is equal to 20 cloves of garlic. 20 cloves! Shields up. You've heard of our Life Change Cleansing Tea at GetTheTea.com. Now try Heart Love. And by the way, take your blood pressure and watch weekly what happens. So here's how to purchase. Log on to GetTheTea.com. That's GetTheTea.com and build your shields. That's GetTheTea.com. Mention Ray in the coupon code and hit apply and receive free shipping.
I'm Clyde Lewis. You are listening to The Fringe FM.
Hey, is
Is that a new music app?
Yeah, check it out. Surfer Music Discovery. It links to thousands of online stations, but the twist is you see the song names and artists that are now playing live.
That's different. No guessing. Looks like a waterfall of music.
So many formats. Rock, oldies, country, R&B, jazz, and a whole lot more.
How's that spelled?
Surfer. S-U-R-F-R.
Is it expensive?
It's free. No need to sign up or sign in.
Get the Surfer Music app free from Google Play or the App Store.
Have you ever seen an ad or banner which brought you a feeling that someone is reading your mind or even listening to your conversations? Your online data is being used against you. Surfshark is a VPN service that makes online privacy protection easy and attainable. You can use it on as many devices as you'd like simultaneously. Surfshark encrypts all internet traffic sent to and from your devices and ensures that your IP address remains hidden. The VPN service that we use at UFO Seekers plus 1 month free for $1.99 a month. Visit surfshark.deals/seekers.
We all have that story to tell in our lives. The winds were howling, the ground shook, you could hear rushing water, and then history repeats itself. When there's no power, refrigeration fails, stores with their shelves strip bare, ATMs can't operate, deliveries stop. Then what? These events can last days or weeks. You need a plan. In statements made during recent interviews, FEMA Administrator Brock Long has repeatedly urged all Americans to understand 3 truths. FEMA is broke, the system is broken. If this is the new normal, Americans can't rely on federal cavalry when disaster strikes. Don't get caught out in the elements empty-handed. Prepare with us by going to preparewiththefringe.com and get your 2-week food supply. 92 servings, 8 food varieties with 25 years shelf life. Normally $137, now only $75. Or get a month's supply, normally $247, now only $147, shipped in 1 business day. Just go to preparewiththefringe.com or call 888-440-7931. That's 888-440-7931. Get this great offer and be prepared while it lasts.
Hey Fringe listeners, this is Dave Cruz, host of Beyond the Strange Radio, asking you to join us live Sunday evenings at 7 p.m. Pacific Time, 10 p.m. Eastern, right here on the Fringe FM. Visit beyondthestrange.com for links to chat, social media, and schedules of the show. And remember, always stay strange. Hasta.
Somewhere between abnormal and paranormal, there's a show called Into the Paranormal. I'm Jeremy Scott. Hear me live Saturdays at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 Eastern on the Fringe FM.
Message is being broadcast by the Department of Defense of the Republic. At 2 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, multiple unidentified objects were confirmed to have entered Earth's atmosphere.
Discovery Houston, 20 seconds to LOS T-Drift.
The first message that comes to me is you are a divine being. You matter. You count. You come from realms of unimaginable power and light, and you will return to those realms.
The vast stretches of the unknown and the unanswered and the unfinished still far outstrip our collective comprehension.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Broadcasting from Forest Tower Studios, all the way from the Deep South. Now, here is your host, Joe Root.
All right, welcome back to Lighting the Void. Tonight our guest, author and magician Rufus Opus, author of The Seven Spheres. We're talking deep magic here. We're not playing around, but we kind of are too, so it's fun. If you got your questions, you want to call in, 1-800-588-0335. That's the number to call in. If you want to chat in our chat room in our Discord server, You can go to thefringe.fm/chat room. This show's here for you 5 nights a week, 9 p.m. Pacific to 11 p.m. Pacific. And following this show's The Secret Teachings with Ryan Gable, 5 nights a week right here on the Fringe FM. If you want to support the show, you can go to lightingthevoid.com, click on Patreon, donate, or grab something from our shop. All right, we're going to get back into this real quick. I want to take this one phone call, Rufus, that we've been waiting. I think they've been waiting for a minute for you. And we'll get back into our conversation. It looks like 928 area code. You're on the air with Rufus Opus. Who are you speaking with?
Hey, my name's Chris. How's it going, Rufus?
Hey, Chris. How's it going?
Oh, good. You know, just bowling the time away. Pretty good at it. You're probably not too great at it. But so I had 2 questions. One is planetary elections and the moon waxing and waning. In regards to talismans, in your book, you don't really touch on it too much. That was one question. And then the second one, real quick, I'm going to throw in, is if you could just touch on the 8th sphere. It's not really mentioned too much.
Oh, yeah. The 8th sphere is all right. Let me file that one away. Yeah, I will get to that one after. Okay, so planetary elections and waxing and waning moons. Are you talking about like void of course stuff for talismans?
In regards to the whole talisman creation, I mean, I've made these probably 5 years ago. And, you know, at this point, I'm like, well, what are these doing? Are they doing more harm than good? Because I didn't pay attention to the elections at the time or the moon.
Oh, Chris. Yeah, I told you. Sorry, is this Chris from Arizona?
Yeah, I threw in the bowling joke really quick to see if you caught it. But
Oh, yeah, I totally missed that. Yeah, Chris has had the honor of watching me bowl and fall flat on my ass because I had drank way too much bourbon.
Fantastic.
But, yeah, okay, so I don't get into the planetary election hour. Did you make them in the planetary hour, like at dawn on the day of the planet?
Yeah, in the correct time with all the spheres and all that good stuff. I just never paid attention, you know, because once you start getting into planetary magic, you know, there's all these other people that are like, well, if you don't do it at this exact time, you know, something's going to go haywire. So now I'm, you know, doubting my talismans at this point.
Yeah. The window of the planetary hour, as long as you start the talisman within that planetary hour and planetary day trumps just about everything else for planetary talismans. If Mercury is a retrograde, people say, no, don't do it. But I mean, if you have a planetary hour and a planetary day, it's not going to be terrible to create a Mercury talisman. The effects of these things, they don't really, it's not, in my opinion, you know, your mileage may vary, that it doesn't really matter so much in the long run, because every time you use them, you're reconsecrating them. Every time you anoint them or call on the spirit through that talisman, it's going to continue to be revitalized in that moment. So over time, especially with like 5 or 6 years of doing it, you know, you've got 5 or 6 years of reconsecrations going on. But if you're really concerned about it, you can get like what's his name? Warnock. Christopher Warnock. He's good at giving you good election times. There are other tools you can use to find a really good election for a planetary hour. But it's pretty complicated, and the easiest way to do it is just at dawn on the day of the planet. And if it's like, you know, I mean, the planets rule the different signs, right? So like Mars just went into Aries, so now is a really great time for Mars talismans, right? So you go through and you make all your Mars talismans now. It's good. When Jupiter goes into Cancer, you make that 4th pinnacle of Jupiter to get wealth and to increase your prosperity and everything, you know, and that definitely helps for specific talismans that have specific results and stuff. But for these things, it's just like putting together a phone call. You know, it's getting the numbers right. It's getting the.
Well, some of the apps are different, right? Like, I mean, Lunarium's got, I think it's like 20 minutes off from some of the apps too. So, yeah, I don't know. Like, I get confused about it as well, to be honest with you.
Yeah, and Lunarium isn't really working very well these days. I use the Hours app. It's just called Hours for Planetary Hours.
Yeah.
And it seems to be pretty good. It hooks into the Swiss ephemeris, I think, something like that. But it goes based on where you're at, uses your phone's location and everything, and so it's pretty cool for getting it pretty accurate. But yeah, if you really want to do it, if you don't trust your apps for things, you can always figure out what time sunrise is and sunset is, and add up all those hours, divide them by 12, and that's how long a planetary day hour is. And then at night, it'll be shorter, especially right now. You do the same thing from the time of sunset to the time of sunrise, and you divide it by 12, and that's how long the night hours are. And you can figure it out from there, just from dawn forward. And that's a real quick rundown of it, but that's how you do it. I've got a blog post somewhere about it. But yeah, I mean, if you're really worried about it, Chris, you just go out and make some new ones at a good time, set yourself up with, like right now is a great time for a Mars talisman for Samael, and as the big obvious things are in place, like, the planet is in its own sign or a sign that it rules, it's an exaltation. It's, just tap into that as it happens, because like you said, you've been doing this for 5 or 6 years now, right? So, 5 or 6 years from now, you're going to have plenty of time over that time to put together some really nice talismans if you're really concerned about it, Yeah. But just toss your old ones in some running water, and it'll evaporate whatever energies you might be manifesting in your life. But yeah. So does that answer your question, some? Does that?
It does. If you could touch on the 8th sphere real quick, because most people probably haven't even heard of that.
The 8th sphere. Okay, so the 7 spheres are the planetary spheres. There's a terrestrial world, and then there's 7 planetary spheres above it, from the moon to Saturn. The 8th sphere is the sphere of the fixed stars. It's not really talked about very much. Hermeticum. The Divine Pymander talks about what happens when you enter into the 8th sphere. It's the sphere of silence. And it's not really. The 9th sphere is the sphere of silence. But
is it like the abyss, or is that something different? Totally different?
It's a different concept.
Gotcha. Okay.
It's similar, but it's different. The 8th sphere is the sphere of the fixed stars. So that's where fate is determined. When a spirit is descending from whatever source we have on high, it passes through the 8th sphere at a certain time, right? That's when you're born. And that's why your birth chart has everything based on your what planets are in which signs. The constellations are the fixed stars. So like there's 12 houses or whatever. Anyway, the 12 constellations at your birth relative to where you're at what time it was, determines, like they used to believe that was your fate for life, right? That sphere is where the idea that is manifesting as you sets everything in place for your lifetime. When you go above that sphere, when you're doing your astral travels or heading up and down the axis mundi, when you go beyond the sphere of Saturn into the 8th sphere, you're going into the realm where everything comes together, but you're heading upwards, so it's also falling apart, right? Everything is dissolving back into its nature. And in the 8th sphere, Yophiel is the archangel that I used for that one, to contact it, and he showed me, he introduced me to the entities of the 8th sphere that teach you how to hymn the hymns of silence, is how they put it. It's singing songs and silence that are worshiping your source, worshiping God is how the Christians usually put it, right? Mm-hmm. It's this hymn that you sing, but it becomes your life, it is your fate, it is your true will, sort of, in Thelema, but it's I don't know how to put it in a more clear way, but it's the.
Well, maybe it's not explainable. Some things that you run into, I've found in these, it's just you can't really put words to them. But you understand
it's definitely an experiential thing. Yeah, you can totally understand it. Exactly. But once you go into that sphere, you learn, you project beyond it. And that is definitely, I can't put any of that into words. It's all quiet. It's before words when you're up above the ninth sphere and into the whatever else is out there. When you come back, you bring back that. It's almost like an energy inside yourself that makes you want to create things and change your life in this passionate desire for something better for yourself and others. It's hard. I mean, it's a lot of words around this concept of being a better you and being better at being you.
Wow.
And that's what the eighth sphere is about. But that's something people have to kind of gotta
do for themselves, huh? Gotcha.
Yeah. Right. I mean, how can I tell you, what your true will is? I can't.
Yeah. Well, thanks for your questions. Really good questions, Chris. Thanks for calling. All right. So this is he was saying you're welcome, by the way, but I had him muted. Sorry about that, Chris. So here's some questions that people want to know. This kind of some fun questions for Rufus here from Rivers. She wants to know, what is the proudest teacher's moment Rufus has ever had from the respond of the student who took his courses or read your books? Do you have like an ultra proud moment?
Oh, let me think about. That's something I'd have to think about.
Probably got a few, huh?
Yeah, everybody. I mean, well, see, I can't say I'm proud of it, right? Because I honestly, I believe I'm a hack writer. I went out and read this stuff on Wikipedia. I'm a total hack.
Oh, man.
But I just read all this stuff and then I put it into a report and published it, and people liked it and it's changed their lives, and I'm grateful. But mostly I did it for myself because I wanted more people to do this, because it, you got to be able to talk to your peers.
Yeah, well, let me just say real quick, okay? I read a lot of these occult books. You're not a hack. Like this book, I felt like I was sitting next to you talking to you, right? And if that's when you read a book like that, to me, that's good writing. So
yeah,
I
that's
don't
why
think
I like
you're
Lon
a hack,
Milo.
man.
Yeah, Lon Milo DeCat was visiting here once, and he really is exactly like he sounds in his book.
Yep.
And it's just like, it's great. So yeah.
And then after you hear him talk, I told this to him on the show last week. I said, after I hear you talk now, every time I read your book, I can hear your voice in my head.
Right. Yeah. And people who hear me talk in public, they always recognize my voice because it comes through in my writing. And I never understood why people don't do that more, because people are interesting. But anyway, yeah. So my proudest moment, I guess, is just, it's a continuous thing. Like, I've seen people just turn their lives around because they tapped into who they are, and claimed their authority over their lives and started using the tools that we have access to through this magical process to, change our experiences, Yeah. So every time I see anybody do that, I'm happy for them. And usually I have a lot of questions for them because, I said, I'm doing this so that I can learn.
It's definitely done it for me, because I was raised up one way only to realize that I'm not that way, I'm not the way, like, what I mean by that is there's this whole idea of masculine, feminine, and all this stuff, and I was raised up to be this tough sumbitch that doesn't take crap from anybody, but doesn't, ever show his emotions or anything like that. But deep down, my nature has always been an emotional, sensitive, caring kind of person,
Yeah.
And,
you end up sitting at your desk crying for people.
Yeah, man. Like sometimes I'll sit up and cry at night about stuff. I'm like, what am I doing? And it's who I am, right? And it's like this book helped show. It's like, hey, man, like this is who you are. Why don't you use it? I mean, because not everybody out there is in touch with this deep stuff that you're feeling, but you could help them. That's the thing, when you realize who you are.
At least tell them that that exists, because a lot of people don't even know that there is that level of emotion to experience in life.
Exactly.
Like they're raised to push all that so far down that they don't know what to do when they fall in love. They wouldn't know love if it came up and bit them in the ass. And it's like, come on, guys, we could do better. So I guess my proud moments are those then, when people are using it to make their own lives better, because it makes my life better, and it gives me someone to talk to about some of my experiences because of their shared experiences then.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, like it was the doorway to my happiness, honestly, that I just realized in this past year of my life. It was the doorway to I mean, how do you take 36 years or so of programming and say, hey, well, that's not who you are? Are you kidding yourself?
Right.
Like, it's not easy to let go of, Yeah, it's not.
But you know how you said you'd been doing all this stuff for years and years and years, right?
Yeah.
And then you got this book and everything sort of opened. But everything you did leading up to it, I think, this is me again with my personal opinion, your mileage may vary, all that crap. You were preparing for it, right? And when it was right, it came to you, and when it was right, it came to me, and I got to do stuff with it, and I get to be a part of something bigger than me, and it's pretty humbling. Exactly. It's not really a prideful thing for me. It's like, wow,
I got another question here. What does Rufus think is the hardest challenge anyone who's starting the magical path is? The hardest thing?
Expectations. Yeah, people go into it with these expectations of seeing things or hearing things or feeling things or having everything work out exactly the way they think it's going to. But, I think everybody should conjure Bune and ask for a lottery winning, just so that they all get to suffer like I did, and start to learn that it's not A plus B equals C, and it's not always going to be A, B, C, D, E. It's going to be A, B, C, X, Y, M, N, L, P. And but we expect it to work like it says, and these aren't process flow charts that have been verified in lab environments. Everybody brings to the table a completely different set of circumstances, and the spirits are going to manifest things through the channels that you have available in your life. And that's something that people don't seem to understand. They're like, okay, Bune brings riches to a man. I'm a man. I want riches. Bune, bring me riches. You bring riches to a man. And you're looking for money, and there's no money coming in. And meanwhile, you're sitting there complaining about how broke you are at a bar, and your friend is like, hey, I need a driver at my pizza shop. I'll pay you under the table. And you're like, no, I don't have time for that. Or you take the job and you have, an extra $1,000 a month. It's just free cash, no taxes. And, things happen that way. And you just have to learn to adjust your expectations and let the spirits work in your life and pay attention to it. One of the things I really try to teach in all of my classes and books and whatever is, watch the next 2 weeks after your ritual for anything related to what you asked for, because it takes about 2 weeks.
It does, doesn't it? Yeah, it does, doesn't it? That's a trip that you say that, because I remember doing these, like the first moon cycle I did these with. I was like, it's not working. It's not happening. But like I was doing this with another person, and then it would happen like 2 weeks later. They'd be like, yeah, see, here it is. You're expecting everything to happen. Yeah, we do have all these expectations in our head, don't we?
Mm-hmm. Yep. And it's really discouraging when it doesn't work out that way, so that's the biggest hurdle, is your own, I don't know. You just got to set aside what you think is going to happen, or at least write down what you think is going to happen, and then leave it alone and write down what really happened. Because if you don't pay attention to what's really happening, you miss all the links, and attention. Can I go off the rails a little bit?
Yeah,
here?
Man. Yeah.
All right. So attention is this really super important thing. And I was talking about how the AA work really helped me develop some of my muscles, as a spiritual kind of entity in a body. That one of the things that I learned was how to control, and I'm not perfect at it by any means, but what I'm paying attention to. And if you look at that phrase, paying attention, it's like attention is a currency. It's like paying dollars, paying cash, paying time, paying dues. You're paying your attention to something. So when you're paying attention to anything, you're going to see something manifest around it. You know, it's like if you're paranoid about someone doing you wrong, you know, you're going to find all this evidence to indicate that they are doing you wrong.
Oh my God, dude. You're hitting the nail on the head. Yeah.
Right. And a lot of what this seven sphere stuff does. Head. Yeah. Yeah. It teaches you to train those voices, you know, and it purifies them, cleans them up a little bit. And I don't know. And see, one of the things about this is it doesn't really require a lot of action, you know, like it just kind of changes you just by conjuring them, you know, and you find yourself understanding things you didn't before without really learning it. You know, I don't know how to explain that.
Well, I've had what you're talking about there, I've actually, and I don't want to go into explaining how I know, but it was through dream work and something that happened with TV, and it's a long story actually, but I've had Gabriel actually get mad at me because I got this relationship with Gabriel, you know, I guess I don't know why. And it was like those voices in your head you're talking about. It's like you're convincing yourself of something that's not true. I'm trying to give you this gift, and I've done this a million times, and you're going to get the picture. You're either going to understand that I'm trying to give you this gift, or you're going to suffer from it. You're doing this. Like I got that stern message from him, you know, her, whatever, you know, right. And I was like, okay, so what are you saying? And it's like, Gabriel's like, have faith that I'm going to take care of you. Just have faith in what I'm doing, you know?
Yeah,
I was like, okay.
One of the things people don't get is that we aren't supposed to be doing this alone. You know, as magicians, we're supposed to have familiars for the elements. We're supposed to have a relationship with the archangels of the planets, because it's planetary energy that combines to create everything here in this world. You know, and we're supposed to have friends that know how to use it, because we don't know how to use it. I'm not the master of Venusian energies. You know, Anael is. Venus is. She's in charge. She gets to.
But as a Taurus, you enjoy it though, don't you?
Yeah, but I don't. But that's my job. I'm a sensory unit. I'm a walking, you know, feeler.
Right. Right.
with the goal in life, you know. So I mean, yeah. I mean, it's not up to me to know how love works and to influence people to love me or do things to make them love me or understand what it is that's wrong with so and so that they can't find love with such and such, even though it's obvious to everybody who knows them that they're in love, you know?
Yeah.
It's not my job to figure all that out. And I never will understand what anybody else really thinks about anything. So.
Well, like, did you use, like, there you go, Night Stalker Peter Gabriel. That's a good one. Did you use this stuff to find the person that you're with now? Like you were talking about that earlier, like you're happy, you know, you transitioned through some hard stuff in your life. Were you practicing magic back then?
Oh yeah. Yeah. But the thing is I didn't do any magic to find a lover.
Right.
I did magic to, get over what was wrong with me, that I was always attracted to these awful people.
Right. Yeah.
You know, and I was like, screw it. I don't want a relationship. What I want is I want to stop, you know, drawing all this evil into my life. So I just.
You ever notice how that happens to people that can love the most though? I mean, like I'm not trying to judge people or anything, but I see this time and time again where like people that really have humongous hearts and can love on deep levels. I'm not saying everybody can't, but the ones that are just can do it in certain ways, like they get the little suckers, man, the little vamps, you know, the people that just vamp the shit out of them. Excuse my French, but.
Well, yeah. And whose fault is that at the end of the day? You know, eventually, you know, people who do this stuff, we become a little bit more mature than people who don't.
I did it too.
You know? Yeah. Yeah, and who with that maturity comes the responsibility of age and understanding. You know, like these people cannot understand that they are mooching off you and vamping you, or even if they do it on purpose, they don't see that that's wrong. You know, and if you really love them, real love isn't enabling them and feeding them all your energy. Real love is saying you need to find your own energy.
Right.
I love you, and I want to see you succeed and excel and be the very best that you can be. And what you're doing right now is you're living off other people's scraps. You know, you're dumpster diving in the astral here, and it's like you could be just
producing a kingdom and expanding your borders and
pumping the world in with I don't know, something good, something creative.
See, that's what I feel like, and everybody's going to be like, oh, Joe's going on this rant again. But that's what I feel like all of this COVID and all of these retrogrades and all this astrological energy is doing right now. It's like a spirit calling people to say, hey, there's a bigger picture here than just what you want. Like, not saying what you want isn't great, because it is, and you'll get all that, but I need you to focus on, like, it's asking us to have faith in spirit more. Just have a little faith. That's all.
Yeah, and or else, or don't, you know.
Yeah, or else, right? or face the consequences. Yeah.
Yeah, and what are the consequences? You have to suffer through the exact same stuff, and
yeah,
you know, you don't have any solace. But yeah, I don't know, man. But yeah, people who love more, they do end up supporting others for a lot longer than we should.
Yeah, and I was explaining this on the Astral Journal too. Is like when you finally decide to move away from that, you know, it's hard, number one, because you love people. Number one, you just do. But it's like when you walk over a hornet's nest. You walk over a hornet's nest, they start stinging you, and you're like, damn, you know, and you try to run away. And even when you get away from it, they're still kind of following you and tagging you, you know?
Mm-hmm.
But if you just got to keep moving. Eventually, they'll go back to their nest, you know?
Right. Yeah. And there's so much of life that is just walking through it.
It's not just people to me, though, Rufus. It's the media. It's the mindset, the fear pushing, a lot of different things. A lot of different things right now.
Yeah, I don't want to get into that because I will rant. And
it's a spiritual war going on, though, right? Don't you believe that? Like right now?
I don't think. I mean, yeah, but not any more than ever. I don't know. I don't think that this is really that special. I think that there's a lot of crap going on, but I think that we're like I said, we're paying attention to it. All this crap was going on. I mean, how many years was Epstein funneling underage girls to this island? You know, how many years was that going on?
That's what makes me angry about it. That's what I mean. It's a spiritual war. Like everybody's like, oh, that's the guy behind the curtain. Yeah.
Right.
He's been there the whole time, you know?
Yeah. And people knew, you know, like, and nobody said anything. And why didn't they say anything? Because they were afraid, or it's just how it is, and they wanted to fit in, and, you know, all these other stupid reasons, you know?
It's a flu virus. Yep, that's 1 in a million flu viruses. We're going to focus on this one. No. And it's like, yep, it's killing people like the other viruses. I don't, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know.
It's a little different.
It is a little different. It's a little bit more powerful, but it's like, here's what my thing is. When this first came out, I was trying to explain to people that, you know, like the collective unconscious, this Jungian thing, like, look, if the media starts pushing fear, I'm not saying this thing ain't what they're saying it is, but they really don't know what it is. If they did, we'd get a bit clearer answers, number one. But number two, it's like we push all our fear and focus into this, and what do you think is going to happen? Do you not believe that you're creators and magical beings yet? Like, what's it going to take for you to believe that?
Right. So why aren't they putting their attention on the cure, you know, on the vaccines, on the, you know, I mean, you hear, oh, yeah, we'll have a vaccine. But you don't hear this company is doing this, these researchers, these scientists, these people. You know, there's like one story for every 5 that talk about what the current testing rates are in Texas, you know. And it's like, yeah, we get it. There's something to be afraid of. Death, you know, yes. And telling us we're going to die is going to make us read the story about why. And yeah, you'll get your advertising, but I mean,
yeah, but you could die tomorrow, and I know this is cliche, but it's true. You can die tomorrow riding down the road if somebody like reaches down into their glove compartment and swerves over the center line. So you're not going to get out of here alive.
Right, exactly.
Like, it's not going to happen.
Yeah. Yeah, and see, that's something else. I came to complete terms with my death somewhere around Saturn, I think. Either when I went through the Saturn initiation or perhaps when I went through the eighth sphere. It's hard to tell exactly now. But what I realized is that, yeah, temporary life and then eternal whatever, that probably involves more temporary lives. You know, sort of the picture I got, it really was reincarnation, and you get to do what you want, and you know, that whole scene that is very, like you said, cliche.
Yeah.
You know, you just keep coming back as often as you want, and you can remember or not.
I get overzealous with it though, Rufus. I do. Like, as you know, being a Taurus, you could probably understand that I'm a really passionate person, so I think about that. Like, I'm like, well, let's do this. Let's get this going. Let's live now. Let's be happy right now, because we could die tomorrow, you know?
Yeah.
But then there's this earth energy. It's like, well, let's time it, plan it, make everything perfect. And I got this thing inside me. It's like, but why?
Why wait?
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, it ain't going to be perfect. You're going to plan it. How'd it work last time you planned everything out?
Yeah, you got plans. That's funny. Right. I get it.
Yeah.
But still, I'm not trying to be daunting. At least in your book here, this is a way to, in my opinion, to recognize the energies that are around us. Instead of, at the very least, you're going to recognize what's been happening to you. Like, I think if somebody picked up this book and read it and was like, okay, well, I'm going to try this for the first time, and they actually went through the stuff, things are going to happen where they'll actually start saying, oh, these energies are real. It has been affecting my life. And then from there, you can do whatever you want with it. That's the way I look at it.
Yeah. Yeah. And the you know, that question that people have about, is it all in your head or is it all real spirits? Do they have their own reality? You know, the stuff that leads to, is it dangerous?
Yeah.
You know, I think that that's all interesting things to converse about. And I think it's important to have your own opinions on that. But it doesn't really matter which one is true. The universe behaves as if these spirits had their own lives and were doing their own thing all the time. And it behaves as if they're separate, and you have to call them to get these initiations. They teach you, and then you work with them going forward. You know, that's the way it works. Whether they're constructs of your mind that allow you to tap into some universal energy and focus it through lenses that you get in your initiations, I don't know. I don't care. As long as when I call on the spirit, I get what I want.
Man, you sound like Stephen Skinner now.
Well, he's not always wrong.
No, he's a pretty cool dude. That guy laughed at me just as much as you did too. We had a good time when he was on here. But
oh, that's cool.
Yeah, he said the same thing. He's like, yeah, I know a lot of people think this stuff's dangerous, whatever, but that gets me what I want. You know?
Yeah. Yeah, and what's the danger? Like you said, you can get hit running down the road.
Well, I guess when people are hearing this discussion, I know there's a few people listening going, yeah, these occultists, they're talking about their dark black magic. They're going to burn in hell. They're going to suffer karmic consequences. And they're going to, well, I think what I want to say to them, and maybe you could say something too, is like, we realize there's consequences to this stuff. That's the point.
Yeah. Yeah. And this idea that they're evil, I think that this COVID thing, this scare that we're going through, is really instructive about how powerful fear is. You know, it brought an entire society to its knees, you know, when it could have been dealt with creatively. You know, it didn't have to be reactionary and denial and all this other stuff. We could have just dealt with it like normal human beings, like adults, but we didn't. So now we have what we have. Whatever.
Anybody that's had panic disorder or severe anxiety knows all about that demon. Trust me. Mm-hmm. You know, I had panic disorder to the point where I made myself sick, my stomach sick. They thought I had parasites in me. I got tested for everything, and it was just fear. It was fear. My grandfather actually tried to exorcise me. He's like a Hebrew, like Jewish Christian that thinks magic is evil, yet he does Hebrew magic all the time, you know? And
Messianic Jews.
yeah, right. And so he's like trying to lay his, you know, his Spock hands on me. You know, you've seen that, right? And and he's laying these hands on me, and he's saying, this was a long time ago, he's like, you have a deaf and dumb demon. Now, I'm not playing. This guy did call up demons before. I've heard him, you know? But he's like, you have a deaf and dumb demon. I'm like, well, what does that mean? He's like, well, you have a demon that you're not going to get this thing out of you until you totally, like, stop worrying about everything and what everybody thinks, follow your dreams, and live in love for everybody else but you. And I was like, that sounds stupid. But if you think about it, when you have severe anxiety, what are you doing? Like, you're totally focused on what's happening to you. That's what it wants you to do, right? It's like, focus on yourself. Things are going bad, da-da-da-da-da. But what cured it was, honestly, man, sunlight, laughter, exercise, and time. Healing. Real love, healing, loving other people. And it slowly went away. And my health came back, too.
Yeah, I'm having the same thing happen to me right now. I spent my partner got diagnosed with cancer, and I was like, shit. Oh man. You know, and we did Magick, of course, and you know, she's healthy now, but I drank a lot.
Not bad.
You know, because I mean, Taurus, love, but what's the most important thing to me in my life is my relationship with my partner, and it's like, and it's very selfish, and the fear is I'm gonna get shortchanged.
You're gonna lose a love that you worked so hard in your life to find, huh?
Yeah, right. And it's like, this is the only, you know, and honestly, there are other fish in the sea. I might end up with someone else at some point, and I might love them just as much. What if that were true, Josh? You know, come on, Rufus. What if it were true that you actually, you know, if something happened to my partner tomorrow, someone swerves over and kills her, what if I actually am able to love again? You know, what if I find another person to love?
What if you don't?
And what if I don't? You know, die anyway. But chances are, knowing me, it wouldn't, you know, it's just, let's be realistic here about our fears. The things that we're afraid of either aren't going to happen, or if they do happen, they aren't going to be that bad. We've been through worse, all of us. So there's really nothing to be afraid of as a magician, because no matter what you create for yourself, and we do create most of what we experience, no matter what you create for yourself, you're gonna have a bad time eventually, and you're still going to be able to do magic, and you're still going to be able to create something new for yourself, you know, and that's freedom, and it's terrifying, but it's also freedom.
Yeah, it is terrifying, and I think I'm totally with you on that. It's just like I'm kind of going through that too. It's like, man, you know, you work your whole life to find something. You find something, whether it's money, career, relationship, whatever, you find it. And then I forget who said this, but it was in like Conversations with God. It's like when we meet our greatest love, we have to confront our greatest fear, you know, and because that line between ultimate love and fear is so thin. And at that point, it should just be easy to be like, well, love, you know, but it's kind of hard when the dark side's staring you in the face, you know?
Yeah. Especially when it's staring you in the face, waiting for you to look away long enough for it to take what you want.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So this kind of comes back to, like, do you know yourself, and having a little faith, have a little faith in the process, and Magic kind of teaches you about what, like processes, ebbs and flows, nature, cycles and spheres. It's like the ultimate teacher of that.
Yeah, and it's like the ingredients. You know, you learn. It's like following a recipe. You don't. You know, do you bake?
Oh yeah.
I mean, bread.
I got a little mini. Do I wake and bake? I mean, no. Like I have a little mini bake oven I make stuff in sometimes, but I know what you're. Go ahead though.
Yeah. It's like the spheres, these things that you learn how to mix these planetary energies together over time. You know, And you don't always get the same loaf when you follow the same recipe. You know, there's weather and altitude and all this other crap, and it's not guaranteed to turn out every time exactly like it did the time before, and it's not supposed to, you know. So yeah, I don't know, this whole thing is it's a process, you know. You keep learning it, you make these adjustments, and sometimes you get a lousy loaf of bread and you throw it away and make another one. It's not that hard to do. It's just you really want that one loaf of bread to be perfect.
Well, here's a quote from your book I'd like to just say that I thought was cool. And it's about pleasures, right? And it says, Venus is the realm of pleasures too, but I hesitate to touch on that. People rarely need to be encouraged to seek their pleasures. Magicians face a special kind of temptation when it comes to the pleasures of Venus. There's nothing that feels better than creating the world through magical practice. It can be addictive. And there's a constant temptation to just do magic for magic's sake. And honestly, I tend to encourage that kind of thing. It's awesome, and you learn a lot from experimentation, right? So if a thing can be done magically or mundanely, I usually pick magically because I like to do things that way. But there is a danger if you're doing magic that you don't really need to do. You're eventually going to call up something that you haven't really prepared for, right? So this will go to a question here in the chat, since we only got like maybe 5 or 6 minutes left. Can you give us an example of when that happened to you?
Well, I mean, yeah, I talk about it pretty publicly most of the time. Is I conjured Bune because my second ex-wife wasn't paying the gas and electric bill. Told me she was, and I get this bill, and I finally opened it myself, and it was like $4,000.
Nice.
And they were going to cut off the power on the day after Christmas. And like 2 weeks before Christmas, I find out about this, and nobody has any money in my family because it was, recession time. And so we were like in desperate need. So I go down and I light this bonfire of tea lights in front of my little Bune altar kind of thing, spirit pot. And I'm like, this is the amount of money. And I showed him the bill. I said, this is the amount of money I need. I need this within 2 weeks by any means necessary, as long as nobody gets hurt. Right. And my house burns down the day after Christmas. the day they were going to turn off the power, my house catches on fire. And my first check that I got from the insurance company was for the amount for that gas and electric bill. But at that point, you know, the gas and electric was turned off and they didn't care about collecting on it.
Oh, man.
The insurance was paying for a different house while they were rebuilding the one that was shut down.
You got your money, though, didn't you?
Yeah, I ended up getting like $45,000 out of that. So, I mean, just cash, a big pile of it. So it was really nice, actually. It was very stressful, though, you know, and you can definitely do things you don't expect. And what do you do when that happens? You deal with the consequences, you know?
You learn to change your words up a little bit. Right.
Yeah, you be a little bit more careful, you know. But the more limits you put on the spirits, the more limits they have in manifesting what you want. You know, if you tell a spirit, I want to win this $4 million lottery, it's going to do what it can to do that. But if you're not supposed to win that lottery, someone else will. So there you go. And then what? You know, did the spirit fail? No, you failed because you didn't say, I want $4 million, provide me with a path towards that. You know,
right.
Make that manifest in my life. I could have asked Bune to come up with a solution, but I didn't. I asked for a paycheck.
Wow.
Instead of the solution that brings the best benefit to everybody involved. You know, something.
So things still have to work within the laws, you know, and they found out a way to do it. That's the crazy thing. I guess last question here for the astral traveling audience is I tend to like compare the two, the Robert Monroe crowd and the magicians. I think they're onto the same things. As a magical practitioner, what types of, or you can just tell me like one experience you had where you really knew you were out of body instead of it just being a dream, so people can see that magic is related to this too. Probably a million of them though.
Like in a dream?
Well, like, have you actually had like an out-of-body experience where you're looking at your body? That kind of experience. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, that's part of what I experience when I do the AA exercises in the morning with the breathing and the meditations and stuff. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I have a pretty detailed imagination, so I don't know. I don't pretend like I know that there is an astral realm that I can travel through. I see things when I go out of body. Sometimes they're reflective of a truth about something I'm looking into. Like if my partner is having some trouble at work, I've done some astral travel to take a look at what it looks like in the astral realm.
Spying work, did you?
Yeah, research.
Research, I got you. Yeah.
You know, and the information that I got out of it was useful. It helped me ask the right questions. You know, was it something tapping into the subconscious mind? I don't know. But it was useful. So, yeah, I mean, this astral travel thing is very, very much like the Magick. But, you know, for me, I definitely prefer the spirits. You know, I'd rather my second ex-wife got pregnant by another man while we were still married after we separated.
Jesus.
And, yeah, and she was suing me for alimony and child support and all this stuff. And in Maryland, they have a law that says if adultery's been committed, it's a no-fault divorce automatically. You only have to pay child support. And I'm like, okay. So I didn't know she was pregnant. We conjured someone from the third Goetia, and the spirit told my scryer, who is my partner now, that she was pregnant, you know? And I'm like, text my ex, I'm like, you're pregnant. And she's like, who told you? How did you know?
Wow.
I'm like, oh, that would be Ansuel of the third Goetia. And she's like, bullshit.
Right.
How do you know? Like,
well, I've got a partner that saw it. That's what I'd have freaked her out and said, saw it.
Yeah.
You know?
I did. It was great. It was one of those great moments. You know,
Yep.
I got out of like $1,200 a month. So, I mean, yeah. So is it different than when you go astral and look at a problem and come back with information? No, it's not that different. You know, if I'd done it astrally instead of conjuring a spirit, who knows what would have happened. But I just like to be able to talk to people, you know, and I like to talk to spirits. So I prefer the conjure method. It's more my style.
Well, hey, I respect it. I respect that. I say the same thing to Skinner. It's not so much my style, but I'm looking into it. But I respect anybody that knows what they're doing with it. And here's my last question, because we got to wrap this up like quick. You did say you were working on another book, right?
Oh yeah, I've got the Goetic Grimoires coming out from Nephilim Press in August, and I'm working on an HGA book. I don't really like the writing that I've done so far, except for, you know, some parts. But yeah, I've got more stuff coming out, and over the next couple of years, you should see quite a lot more Rufus Opus stuff getting published.
Fantastic, and thank you for coming on the program, man. It was really cool to talk to you. Really was.
Yeah, thanks for inviting me. I really enjoyed it.
You guys, I'm going to leave all the links to the book. If you guys constantly ask me what books to get, if you want to look into planetary magic, The Seven Spheres is the book to get. I'm telling you, it's a good one. We got to get out of here. So the music was by Chronox and Steezy Stevie. Please don't copy the show without written permission. Thank you to Pozzo, the Fringe FM team, the patrons, and all you guys in the Fringe FM chat. Stay tuned for the Secret Teachings with Brian Gable. See you guys tomorrow night. Good night.
On this program do not necessarily reflect those of the Fringe FM, KTLK Digital Broadcasting, its sponsors, affiliates, or staff. Listener discretion is advised.